Blockchain was the revolution. The technology was going to disrupt the banks, remove the middlemen, decentralize power, and put control back in the hands of individuals. That's what got me into Bitcoin and crypto originally, for sure. Then AI arrived out of the blue and did to crypto exactly what crypto said it would do to everybody else. The disruptor got disrupted in broad daylight, and the people running crypto are now spending 70 million on AI domain names to prove they're fine. That's crazy, huh? AI.com, I believe. I don't know. Let's get into it. To appreciate what just happened to crypto, you need to remember what crypto promised. The pitch was always ideological: decentralized finance, trustless systems, no single point of control, no bank, no government, no institution with the power to decide who wins and who loses. The blockchain was supposed to be the great leveler, a system that ran on math instead of power. What crypto actually built over the past 15, 16 years was an industry with employers and employees, venture capital and valuations, a talent market, and a career ladder. It built, in other words, exactly the kind of structure that is vulnerable to AI. And then AI turned up and said, interesting structure. I'll take some of that. Yeah, so it's kind of sad how something starts off and it really has this amazing function, this pure kind of ideological movement behind it. And I still believe crypto, when you understand exactly what the real crypto is, like for example, Bitcoin, does what it does, it's amazing. You can literally hold your own money, crypto value, in a wallet that only you know, let's say the seed word and how to access it. And nobody can take it from you, and nobody charges you a fee to hold it and store it there like everything else. Every stock, every gold certificate, or anything that you own, there's fees, 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 fees. And there's the ability for the company to just hold your money and say you can't get to it for one reason. Oh, regulation said that you have to do all this and we're going to hold it. Or the government can reach out to your bank or a company and say, freeze that person's account. I demand it. And then now you're locked out completely. With crypto, if done correctly, you can't do that. Problem is we come in and we go, this isn't good enough. Let's create all this noise and try to find ways to extract with ICOs and NFTs and meme coins and altcoins and all these different layers that basically provide a whole bunch more risk and access for hackers and all this. And then it turns into this big mess and nobody knows what's what anymore because people look at crypto for one thing and one thing only. And that is, a lottery win. But the one thing that really kind of messes it all up is all this mess makes hacking and getting scammed so prominent in the industry that a huge percentage of people end up leaving with a bad taste in their mouth, vowing to never come back. Anyways, that's my rant on this whole thing. The blockchain was supposed to run on math instead of power, which it does. The problem is that AI also runs on math, runs faster, and doesn't need a salary. The math won. It was just the math anyone expected. It just wasn't the math anyone expected. Well, if you understand really where AI is going and you understand crypto, I've been playing around in and out of crypto with projects, you name it. I've done it all for over 10 years. And if you understand where this is all going, AI will need a money layer where it can transact back and forth without having a middleman, without having some company prevent it or, some middleman that has to approve everything. And the only thing that makes sense is blockchain tech like Bitcoin, a micro transaction, something like, it won't work on just straight Bitcoin, but it'll work on like these layers like the Lightning Network or maybe Solana and whatever's coming next. Every 4-year cycle, there's a new something that does push it forward. But I still believe that crypto has a lot of impressive things to do. And this is typical of any industry. It goes through growing pains. All right, so let's see. In March 2026, the layoffs arrived in a wave. of course, right? This is after a bull market coming down into a bear market, which usually lasts about a year and a half before we level out. Well, I mean, it started in 2025, but now we're in 2026. Crypto.com cut 12% of its working force, around 180 people, and the CEO was specific about why. Roles that do not adapt in our new world are gone. He also announced the company had spent $70 million acquiring the domain AI.com. Imagine if you just had the foresight to just buy that domain name a few years back. I don't know how many years it would have been, 10, 15, 20 years. There was a lot of domain names that anybody could have bought that were bought for millions. And this, 70 million, amazing, crazy. He also announced the company had spent 70 million, acquiring the domain name, AI.com. Algorand, Gemini, Block, OP Labs, PIP Labs, and Messari all cut in the same period. Over 450 jobs gone in weeks. Messari, which targeted a headcount of 1,000 analysts, is now running at around 140. The deeper story is the developer data. Weekly code commits to crypto projects dropped 75%, from around 850,000 to 210,000. Not because the projects were abandoned, but because the people building them left. GitHub grew by 36 million developers in 2025. Almost none of that growth went to blockchain. It went to AI repositories, which now number 4.3 million and growing. Well, this all makes sense. People go where the money is. They go where the hype is, where the excitement. And I mean, if you're running these numbers based on the 4-year cycle bear market, this happens every time. But soon as the money comes back in and Bitcoin starts heading up towards its all-time high, and then the next new thing comes and developers start jumping on that bandwagon, you see it's not just commits and developers that goes up, but crypto influencers, they all quit and disappear. And you go look at, most crypto influencers, except for maybe the top 10, even the top 10, their views are way down, but a lot of them just they quit and they just check out because they don't get views. There's nothing really going on. They can't get any sponsorships. But during the last 2 bull cycles when crypto was like going up, it was like if you were a crypto influencer YouTube channel, you were getting paid so much money for just anything. Allocations to promote a project. I mean, you name it. Just companies were just throwing money. And they were throwing money at anybody that was a claimed blockchain developer. Back in like 2019, you couldn't find them. Now everybody, now they're a dime a dozen. Yeah, crazy, right? 70 million for AI.com. Sounds like a lot of money, but in this day and age, I mean, it's crazy. Look how much money just gets wasted on the military. I'm learning so much with this channel and all the investigation that I'm doing. So I want you to sit with this. So you don't spend 70 million on a web address because you're executing a confident strategy. You spend 70 million on a web address because someone in the boardroom said, we need people to know we're an AI company. It's true, right? There was so many companies back in 2020, 2019 that if they wanted to raise their value or get a bunch of money, they just put blockchain or crypto somehow in their title. Well, now it's AI, right? If you own AI.com, you can say, we are an AI first company, and your valuation goes through the roof. People are simple. The whole thing is ridiculous, right? Right. Somebody in the boardroom just said that, right? We need a company now. We need AI. And nobody had a better idea. That is a very specific kind of corporate panic, and it has a price tag. Well, it's probably a good move, to be honest, because it will work. I mean, people just assume if you have AI.com, you are, ingrained, embedded in AI as much as anybody else. And we've seen the valuations of these companies. They're in the billions and trillions already. Here's the number that changes how you think about crypto trading. Approximately 65% of all crypto trading right now, crypto trading volume in 2026 is handled by AI algorithms and bots. Not 10%, not a meaningful minority, nearly two-thirds. Two-thirds handled by AI. In global financial markets, overall, the figure is around 89%. The human trader, the person staring at charts, reading sentiment, making judgment calls, is a rounding error in the volume data. Yeah, now it's just hobbyists, right? You're not going to compete with AI. You just won't. AI algorithms, I mean, the speed, the knowledge, the data, take the emotion out. You can't compete with that unless you get lucky, and that's like hitting the lottery. The AI bots are not just faster. Research shows that GPT-4, GPT-5 powered trading systems outperform human traders by 15 to 20% during high volatility periods. That is a condition where human traders historically had an advantage. The chaos moments where instinct and experience supposedly counted, the bots won those too. The good news is, if you're holding crypto rather than trading it, volatility still creates opportunity. The bad news, the opportunity is being captured mostly by algorithms, not by individuals. Like I said, I don't know if I said this, but I've been in and out of crypto for the last 10 years. I've worked with projects, I've advised projects, I've been a part of my own ideas. Um, I started my journey working for a crypto project, so I got to learn the inside and out of a lot of stuff right off the bat when I knew nothing. And I learned the importance of understanding the fundamentals of hodling, and that works in just about any industry where you're buying an asset or you're buying a commodity. You're basically buying a stock or gold. If you know you're in a good spot, you need to basically tune out and don't compete. And the way you don't compete is you just hold. And in crypto, you can hold and just play the 4-year cycle. I have another group that I work with that you can follow. It's Coin Bros on YouTube. You can check them out. We're going to be doing some stuff over there. This is my AI passion project here that I like to do, but we have a ton of experience over there. You can follow that. We're going to be working on all kinds of stuff, but I love AI. I love blockchain tech, this and that. But you know what I love more than that is I love results. And what seems to work the best is just the boring stuff, which is understand where it is, understand the valuation, understand the 4-year cycle, and realize that Bitcoin itself always goes up every 4-year cycle and beats its all-time low. And right now, the all-time high was 26K, and it's sitting at 75, 74K right now. That means it's like a 50K discount, and a year has already gone by from the all-time high, which means you have less than 3 years until it breaks its all-time high again, which means you're in for a pretty good double. Historically, almost, historics say that it's almost guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed, but just hold. And in a time like this where there's so much uncertainty, you need to find those strategic, conservative things where you're most likely to win as long as you understand security. That's the main thing. So the chaos moments where instinct and experience supposedly counted, the bots won those too. Yeah, I find this oddly clarifying. We spent years being told that AI was great at routine, repetitive tasks, but that humans would always have the edge in ambiguous, high-stakes situations requiring genuine judgment. The trading data would like a word. No, AI can run algorithms and simulations that can do things that we just don't understand. And it's getting smarter and smarter. So anything that's knowledge-based, period, anything that requires a human sit in front of a computer, AI is going to beat you at. That is the bottom line. All right, so, I always like to talk about being a solopreneur because I believe the only way you're going to survive in this knowledge-based execution AI as the executioner, taking all knowledge base, is you're going to have to understand the concept of really using AI, being a solopreneur, learning how to use AI, and you're either going to go that route or you're going in the physical world and you're going to do stuff that AI cannot take, at least for a while. And that is person-to-person, physical things, whether it's you work directly with people as a coach, as a therapist, and you talk with people in person. There's an energy connection that happens there, whether you're doing something like becoming a surf instructor or a massage or a yoga instructor, or you put together social groups for meet and greets and this and kind of thing. That kind of stuff is not going to be taken, whether you're a plumber or you're you know something that requires a physical thing. You're going to be fine. But if you have to sit in front of a computer knowledge base, you're going to have to understand the concept of solopreneur. All right, so that's what I am. I'm a solopreneur, and I used to hire virtual assistants from the Philippines. At one point, I had a team of like 20 people. I had a team from, developers, game developers in Taiwan. I had a team in the Philippines, and I was running remotely over 20 people, and I had volunteers. And then I had a few people from the US, partners, this and that. And now I don't want to have anybody. I want to basically do things myself and find ways that AI becomes my team. It's less drama, less hassle. I just think it's amazing, but everybody's thinking the same thing. All right, let's get back to the three things. So first, separate the asset class from the industry. Crypto as a technology, blockchain, smart contracts, decentralized infrastructure is not dying. It is being restructured. That's true. The part that's shrinking is the employment layer, the analyst, the developer, the content person, the community manager. If you're in that layer, the signal is not ambiguous. If you hold Bitcoin or Ethereum as an asset, that is a different conversation entirely. And this episode is not financial advice. We always have to say that every crypto influencer. Not financial advice. This is just entertainment. Yes. So second, understand that 65% AI trading volume means you are not competing with other retail investors. When you trade crypto, you're competing with institutional algorithms. You know what game you are in before you play it. Yeah, guys, you cannot think that you're going to trade and do well. You might make a profit, but almost everybody I've ever seen that's been in this industry for longer than a 4-year cycle says, I would have been better off if I just did nothing and held Bitcoin and maybe put 5 or 10% into some altcoins during the bull cycle and just tried to outperform BTC by 2 or 3x, and then just put it back into Bitcoin as soon as I did, instead of trying to hold out for those 10 or 20 X's. You do that over 2 cycles, you would have crushed it, right? Traders, same thing. They're like, they don't even want to look at their P&L. Most don't. Most don't like actually keep track. But you go back in time and you look at it, even somebody like Eric Voorhees, who has been very successful, is an OG who bought and created crypto projects and sold for millions of dollars and has done all these amazing things, said that if he would have just held his original Bitcoin that he originally had at the very beginning and did nothing, he would be way, 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 way richer than he is right now. So let that sit. Okay, third, watch the convergence play. 40% of crypto VC in 2045 went to AI integrated blockchain projects. The companies that survived this period will be the ones that figured out what AI and decentralized infrastructure can do together that neither can do alone. That is where the next wave is building. It's early, it's technical, and it's real. Well, the last cycle, let's just say, 2025, it was kind of an underperforming cycle. That the narrative was that the 4-year cycle is dead and this is going to be a super cycle, blah, 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 blah. And it just did its exact same thing. The best place would have been just to sit in Bitcoin. But the altcoin, meme coin, basically rabbit hole and all that burnt itself out in 2017, 18, and 20, 21, 22. So when it came around this time, it was so saturated and spread out across so many different categories: NFTs, meme coins, launch pads, and then came in these BS AI crypto projects that were just the same thing we just talked about. They just put the word AI in it and everybody bought them up. They even had this thing called AI agents on, base chain that blew up for about a month and a half, 2 months, and then it just died and extracted and went dead, and it was all just garbage. My point is that whole AI thing already happened. So coming into the next cycle, I don't think it's going to be quite the same thing because it never is. It never works exactly the same way. There will be something new. There will be some new variation, mutation of it. But probably the best thing to do is understand that Bitcoin still is a massively, amazingly performing asset investment. That if you just simply understand the 4 year cycle, understand how to buy on the dip, and understand how to play a very small percentage of it on the 4 year cycle, and maybe a very small percentage of it on a few little risky gambles here and there, 5% of your portfolio, I would say, you might hit 100x, you might hit a 500x, and then you'll completely outperform your entire portfolio as long as you don't forget to sell. Because the number one mistake that most people in the altcoin, meme coin, is they don't take profits and they round trip into nothing. Anyways, guys, enough ranting on the crypto. You obviously can tell that this is something I'm passionate about. But until the next video, I'm going to be covering AI stuff on this channel. I'll hit back and forth, talk about anything AI related to crypto, what I find, what I see, what I'm learning, because the reason why I do this channel is so that I'm constantly in a state of learning and sharing. And hopefully we can figure this out, because this is a confusing world of AI, and it's changing so quickly that, it's really hard to figure out what you can do that will be safe 6 months, a year down the road. So that's what we're here for. So until the next video, as we always say, let's get it.